Welcome to the HireLearning podcast, the show where ambition meets strategy. This is your go-to space for career truth, financial empowerment, leadership growth, and real conversations that are unfiltered and uncut. If you're ready to elevate your career, confidence, and future, then you're in the right place. Join our co-hosts, HR professionals Yolanda, Erin, and Caroline, right here, right now, for an episode of HireLearning.
Thank you for joining us today on HireLearning. This episode explores the real-life experience of working with MS through the lens of leading author Cynthia Allen, learning about her journey from diagnosis to disclosure, from accommodations to advocacy. Cynthia shares how she redefined success, rebuilt her confidence, and reclaimed her voice, all while continuing to write, lead, and thrive. Whether you're living with MS, whether you're a caretaker supporting someone managing MS, or simply curious about how chronic illness intersects with career, this conversation is something that you want to hear about, and it will shift your perspective.
My dear friend, Cynthia Allen. She is a woman who has served the federal government for 20 years and more. She's also is a veteran of the U.S. Army. Miss Allen is the lead of her Allen Mediation Group, where she has received education in law and has helped the public with mediations in medical health and as well as other areas. Miss Allen has written a book called MS Reflections, Poem of Strength, Grace, and Hope. She have had a powerful journey through reliance, and I am so grateful for her to join us today. She has not only been a great friend, but a mentor to me and has also encouraged me in giving back to the community through mediation and in public service.
It was a long time coming, and back in 1990, I actually had worked for a doctor at the time who told me with that optic neuritis diagnosis that there was a huge percentage of people that go on to develop multiple sclerosis. So I had 20 years to think about the what if and just try to manage the symptoms that ultimately led up to my diagnosis in 2011.
Wow. So have you been experiencing any health issues or concerns?
I had. So optic neuritis is, I mean, just one, like a lot of patients present first with that. I was dealing with numbness and tingling in my extremities. I had uh, extreme fatigue. I mean, sleep for 24 hours and wake up and still be tired. The fatigue, the optic neuritis, not being able to tolerate heat, humid heat. So, and again, back in 1990, the doctor that I worked for, he said, you know, it's going to take you forever to get a diagnosis, a definitive diagnosis. No one's going to want to tell you that you have it. At that time in the United States, there were not even medications to treat it. I don't think there were medications in the United States until maybe 93, 95, somewhere around there. So, and even when I had an MRI in 95, that neurologist still told me, you're just depressed. You're just depressed. So, give you this little pill over here and everything's going to be okay. But different symptoms, dizziness, balance issues. This particular disease just has so many different symptoms that come along with it because it's affecting your entire body. It's your nervous system. It's the brain. So and that's exactly what happened. They treated just the symptoms, and in 2000, late in 2010, I had a head injury on my way into the office at work, and I fell and hit my head against a metal railing, and my supervisor at the time insisted that I go to the hospital and we do an incident report. And then that doctor said, yeah, you need another MRI. And finally, I got that diagnosis.
Getting the right medical guidance, and in fact, you know, peeling through the layers to ensure that you were getting the right medical diagnosis.
So as each symptom came up, then it's just, okay, well, let me deal with this. If the numbness was so bad at times that I'd wake up and couldn't bear my own body weight standing up. So you get concerned, you go to the doctor, and they're not finding anything because I needed an MRI or a spinal tap. So as each situation came up, if it was unsteadiness, vertigo, or if I take a fall, it's just treating those symptoms and knowing in the back of my mind at some point this may very well be multiple sclerosis, and then I'll deal with that, diagnosis if and when it happens, because I did not really want to be on a medication, and that may not make a lot of sense, but I believed in more of a holistic approach to making sure that I was having a balanced diet that was a mostly plant-based diet, and eating the salmon and different fish that are giving you those omega-3s, the brain food, things like that, and just making sure that I stayed otherwise mentally healthy. But when I got the puncture wound, of course, and I had to go get stitches, and the that doctor said, yeah, you really need to, get another MRI and let's rule it in or out, because I'm terribly claustrophobic as well. I wasn't trying to get up in a machine for you to tell me that, okay, whew, but I did finally get into an open machine, and that neurologist said, yeah, it's MS, and you should have been diagnosed way back in 1990.
Being a veteran in the U.S. Army, you have worked many years as a retired or as a federal employee. So how far in your career was it when you was diagnosed, and were you still working?
Yes. So let me see. I was 47 when I was diagnosed. So I entered the Army when I was 18, 19. And yeah, yes. And so, yeah, I was still at a very, I would say it was an important position that I held, my last position within the federal government. And work will kill you. And that's what I realized, because I had one supervisor when I was diagnosed who I thought was very understanding, and I shared with him because he knew the head injury, and I explained to him that what it might be a result of. And I got that diagnosis. Of course, he was very sympathetic, empathetic. I don't know which one is the right word to use, but they still want you to do your work, and they still, the stress of a job will kill you. And that's when I had to really evaluate, is this even all worth it? Because I loved my job. I had not reached the highest level that I wanted to reach, but I was almost there. So it makes you stop and think about what's really more important in life, because they will allow the stress of the work, the stress of the commute getting to work, the stress of dealing with people in the workforce that are not so pleasant. So, and all that will kill you. So I really had to sit back and take stock of what was really more important to life. What was my end game? What did I really want to do? Drive myself into the ground because work will do that, or did I want to be able to live life on my terms? So I I chose I chose the latter, and what I did, and I think it's very important for anybody in the workforce to know your HR rules, to know if you are working with a chronic illness, know what accommodations could be made for you. And I looked at all of that and I thought, okay, I can stay here. I retired at 52 early on disability because of the MS.
And how long after that did you decide, "Yeah, Imma sit down, Imma look at what is it gonna cost me to retire early?" How long after the diagnosis did you continue to work? 5 years. Wow.
You know, when I inherited a new supervisor who was not pleasant to work with at all, like, we bumped heads, and it wasn't worth it to me after that. So then I decided, knowing the rules and figuring out I can retire early, and this is how I'm going to do it. And I just put my plan in place. I looked at my finances. A lot of people are afraid, and understandably so, because I didn't want my lifestyle to change either. But I did the math and figured out that I was going to be able to maintain my life the way that I wanted and not get up and deal with traffic and people and paperwork and any of that. And I just put my plan in place and worked it and retired. Yeah, 5 years after my diagnosis, and they were surprised because they didn't think I was going. Because a lot of people assume too, when you live with a disease that's invisible, so to speak, so you don't come in looking like you were run over by a truck. And I got sick and tired of hearing, "Oh, well, you don't look like you're sick. You look fine to me." Um, you wear it well. That's what I heard that a lot. Well, you wear it well. Well, what the heck does that mean? It's not an accessory that I put on. Like, I have a disease that's impacting my brain. Like, it's not. Don't compliment me because I don't see it that way.
That they have to see that you have an illness to believe you. And
Right.
also,
Mhm.
there's reasonable accommodations that you, of course, receive. How was it prior to that? What was you faced with? What difficulties was you faced with colleagues or with management?
Well, mostly just with now my initial supervisor when I was diagnosed. Again, he was very supportive and sympathetic. It was after he left and I inherited somebody that was new, and
Mhm.
that's when I got a lot of the "you don't look sick," or go to arrive for a meeting, and yeah, because I don't look sick, but I would remind them, "You don't know what it took for me to look like this to get in."
Absolutely.
So just you have no idea what somebody is going through, um, in any in any illness, any chronic illness that somebody's dealing with, because there's emotional changes that go along with that, and the physical changes to your body, the cognitive changes that people can't see, the emotional depression, mental health side of it that people. So it was interesting because I got in a lot of fiery discussions with people, and had to let them know that I don't really care about this job right here. I got something bigger that I'm dealing with, so the job doesn't even matter.
It's wonderful to hear firsthand your authentic story. And I'm just curious, when you were talking about some of the challenges that you were facing, not only in terms of your medical diagnosis and navigating that, right? But having to navigate that in the workplace. I'm curious to know how you were able to maintain or ensure that your mental state stayed healthy.
Mhm.
And also, how did you remain resilient and motivated enough to excel in the workplace? Because as described, some days you could barely get out of bed. So to soldier through, and I'm curious to know how you were able to do that.
um, First, again, on the initial diagnosis, I had a very understanding supervisor. And I guess I was high enough on the food chain, so to speak, so I didn't get a lot of pushback. So if I was going to be late coming in, then I was just going to be late coming in, and just letting him know if I needed to work from home, even before I got accommodations, I was able to work from home. Um, the the mental health piece, honestly, I got help from a pill, because if I hadn't have been on medication, then because it's very emotional, even though I knew for very many years that this was likely going to be a diagnosis that I would receive. It's a different, it hits different when you hear it, you know. And then and then people want to be sorry for you, and everybody wants to say, oh, I'm sorry. And I don't feel sorry. I didn't initially feel sorry, but when you hear everybody feeling sorry and tearing up, and I want everybody to know, anybody listening, that know that if you have multiple sclerosis, it is not a death sentence. You can you can live a good life. And it helped me again focus on what was important. I cut loose raggedy brothers I was dealing with. I let friends go that didn't add to, and really focused on what does Cynthia need to do for Cynthia. And then once I started looking at, okay, I have this thing now. Let's make sure that it works for me instead of against me. And that's when I started looking at the numbers, a few years in, because I got my diagnosis. I still worked for another 5 years. But once I got tired, and my supervisor that was understanding retired, and I got a wicked one in replace, I had to decide, like, am I going to let them fire me one day? Because, everybody thinks you can't be fired as a federal employee. You can. Conduct. I wanted to put hands on people because, the foolishness that was going on. So I had to figure out quickly, and just knowing HR and knowing the retirement and what I could do for me. And then I made that my focus. Like, I'm still young. I retired at 52. I made that decision. I had the support of my neurologist, and that's what I decided to do.
You also, I'm assuming it's simultaneous, and correct me if it was not, but your desire to write, your desire to document, and become this leading author. When did that fire begin for you? And I'm curious to know how that wove into this journey.
So that was something that was always kind of in the back of my mind. I worked with a friend who always said, "Oh, we all have one good book in us." And so I had an outline that was very different, that was about relationship stuff. And I still have that outline and some stuff there. And it wasn't really until recently, within the last year, that I started with the poetry, because just thinking about, even now that I'm retired, I've moved away from the DC area, I'm here in Texas, just meeting people. I'm very open with the fact that I have MS. If I don't tell you, most people aren't going to know. They look at you, and it's the invisible disease. But I'm very open, especially in dating relationships and getting to know new friends, because I'm going to need to say no on things that you might want me to do. And I want you to know, sometimes I'm just tired and I may not look it, but I'm just going to do nothing because that's what I want to do. So last year I joined an organization. There's actually a MS um, sorority. It's called Alpha Edify MS sorority. So, as a part of the intake with that and being online, they asked us to write a poem about how we felt when we got our diagnosis. So then I started thinking. So I did that as a part of the intake process, and then I said, you know what, this is pretty good. Let me, and it was very cathartic to all of it's a small collection that I did. I think it's maybe 16, 17 pieces, and they're all related to how I felt about certain things, or like when I got the diagnosis, maybe how my friends and family have been a village, uh, what it feels like when these nerves are causing me, pain and trouble, things of that nature. So then I just kept going, and I was like, okay, you know what? I think I'm gonna publish this. And my goal was to try to get it actually finished and published for this year, this MS awareness. However, there was that shutdown that messed up the copyright, you know, certificate, because I want it to be copywritten before I publish it. And I mailed in my, my application for the copyright certificate. But then there was the government shutdown. So I'm still waiting for that to come through. But it was a very good cathartic experience just to be able to write these feelings down, because I share a lot, but in the very beginning and for many years, it's like you want to just go on and pretend like there is nothing wrong. So you kind of internalize a lot. And I'm finding with the women that I've met that have MS, like they feel guilty as if they think they did something wrong. Now, I never felt like I did anything wrong, but
So, Miss Cynthia, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and all about your book. I'm so interested to hear more about what your life and things that you got going on now.
really want people to know that life after retirement doesn't mean sitting on the couch and doing nothing. I When I decided to retire, my neurologist encouraged me, because the MS impacts the brain, to be involved with things that are going to challenge the brain. So I entered graduate school. I got my master's in law. Um, then I established my own mediation practice, where I was doing. I'm focused on marriage and EEO and workplace disputes and things of that nature. And now I'm totally doing what's called surprise medical billing, and that's been thriving. I don't work full time. I probably do 20 hours a week, but it keeps me busy. It's enough to keep me busy. I travel. I still travel a lot. I have been to France, and I've been to California on wine tours a couple different times. I've been to Michigan on wine tours a couple different times, and back and forth to the East Coast. So very, very full life. I took piano lessons and a photography class. So all the things that I feel like um, I wanted to do when I was younger and didn't have time because I was focused on raising kids and career. And now I get to do all that stuff, plus have a business that is thriving so much that I employ my daughter and my son, and I'm trying to get my grandson involved. So I do part time work. I guess we all have a little bit of piece part time, but it's really been very profitable for us. So I'm really excited about the future and future travels. I'm going to Croatia this summer. I try to go somewhere at least once a month and just really stay busy. I'm a grandmother and I interact with the grandchildren.
Share your health issues and how you was healing yourself holistically.
Kind of stepped away from it for a little while, and I really should get back to it. The pandemic and how ugly people were during the pandemic, especially on social media, made me like step away from it. But this has inspired me to get back to it, because my thing was sharing my experiences, hoping that it might be something that could help other people. For example, when I got diagnosed, because traditional medicine, they want you to be on medicine, I started a medication. And I did that for a while, and then I came off. And then when I decided to retire, my neurologist said, well, I can't sign off on that form because it's going to ask me if you're on following a therapy, and I would want you to be on a medication. So you need to be on medication. So I went back on. And then as soon as he signed off on the paperwork, I came off the medication. And then when I moved to Texas, I had another neurologist that said, hey, You should really, the brain on MS shrinks quicker than the normal brain, and you're getting older. And let's just, try this medication to help with the brain shrinkage. So I said, okay, I'll do it. I did it for a year. And then I said, compare the MRI and tell me where I am. And every MRI had been stable and no brain shrinkage even before. I was like, so I'm not doing this whole medicine thing anymore, because the medicines, the disease modifying therapies, were worse. The symptoms from the medication were far worse than the symptoms from the MS. And they all impact your liver. They suppress your immune system. So the MS wasn't making me sick anymore. It was the medication. I stayed with a sinus infection, or couldn't get over really a cold, or something that would be minor for most people would be horrible, because the medicines destroy your immune system. And I'm a drinker. Wine, that's my thing. And it was like, if I'm a battle and challenge my liver with something, it's not going to be a medication. It's going to have to be the wine to take me out, not no medication. So I tried different things. I uh, was a vegan for a year, and I probably was in the best health after the diagnosis that year I was a vegan, but it's very, very, very hard to stay. When I was living there and my daughter was doing all the cooking and shopping and smoothies and this and the that and the other, it was fine. But when I have to do it for myself, it's too much work for me. So I did the YouTube channel just to share what's working for me, that maybe someone can share or try for themselves, just to see, like, not giving medical advice, but just to see what might work for you. And for people, it's not a death sentence. And I so didn't want people to always be saying, oh, I'm so sorry for you, and um, feel like I'm a drag or Debbie Downer on everybody else, because it's not. Once I figured out how to navigate and what to retire and do what I want to do, like, not like every day is Saturday. I've decided for me, every day is going to be Saturday, because I ain't getting ready to go to work, and I didn't just get off of work yesterday. So every day is going to be Saturday, and I get up and do what I want to do when I want to do it, if I want to do it.
Fact, how you've continued to work, and how you've grown your own business and involved your children and your grandchildren in it, and how writing became a tool for your healing and your empowerment. We would love for you to share some poetry from your book.
Okay. Um, let's see. Okay, so each of the poems in the book are just I, how I've felt with either different symptoms, or different milestones. And this one is entitled "When I Tell You." And so, as the intro to this says, when I share with someone that I have MS, I'm not looking for pity. If I'm sharing this very personal information with you, it's because you mean something to me, and I want you to know. You don't need to say sorry, because I assure you I am living my best life. So when I tell you I have MS, please don't rush to say you're blessed. I am in ways you may not see, but this disease still lives in me. Some days I walk with steady grace, others fatigue slows down my pace. My body hums with nerves that burn, a lesson life made me unlearn. It's not a thing that I can shake or fix with sleep or pills I take. It hides in places deep inside where once my ease and balance lied. I share this not for pity, for your pity's part, but so you know my truest heart. I laugh, I love, I still take flight, even when mornings steal my light. If I seem quiet or far away, it's just my body's heavy day. Please don't think I've lost my spark. It's there still glowing in the dark. So when I tell you I have MS, don't see the illness, see the yes. The strength, the grace, the fire, the fight, the woman who still burns so bright.
Working with their diagnosis.
First, just know that it's not a death sentence. If you want to continue to work, you can continue to work. You got to know the HR rules. Like, find out what the rules are. If you need accommodations, don't be afraid to ask for them. Focus on your health and be in partnership with your neurologist on managing your health. Don't let them say this is what you have to do. You get to decide along with them what it is that you need to do and what's best for you. But the thing that will help everyone is really, if you're in the workforce, you got to know the rules, the HR rules, and not let anybody tell you what you can't. Show it to you in writing. Do the research for yourself. Also, don't be afraid to step out if you need to, because your health needs to be the most important focus too. We love our careers. We want to achieve. We hadn't reached that goal, but you can't if you let the stress of a chronic illness drive you into a worse situation.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the resounding themes, Cynthia, that I'm hearing is one of resilience and one of empowerment, and how you have enabled and just learn to pivot even with a diagnosis, right? And redefining who Cynthia is and how Cynthia is going to transcend once you receive this diagnosis. So kudos to you for not allowing this diagnosis to be that stopping point, but more so it seems to be very much has it's been a starting point on a whole new a myriad of chapters in your next journey post retirement.
For me, MS has been very good to me. If I have to have it, I've gotten some benefit from it, and I'm very thankful. I get to live a pretty good life, fabulous life.
For another episode of Higher Learning during MS Awareness Month. You guys, you can check out her full link in the bio. We would love to hear from you. Send us your stories, email it to us. You will find our email also linked at the bottom. Share with your like, share, and subscribe. Share us with all your friends and family, and then tell us your stories. So thank you so much again, Miss Cynthia. We really enjoyed having you today.
Thank you.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, and
Thank
check
you
out
for having me.
Miss Cynthia's book. Again, it is called MS Reflections: Poems of Strength, Grace, and Hope by Miss
Yeah.
Cynthia Allen.
Coming
Thank
soon. The book is coming soon, you guys. I know I'm gonna get a copy. I have a cousin who has MS, and I'm gonna buy one for her. I'm gonna buy
Oh, okay.
several to share them. But thank you. Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Cynthia, for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to share with us how you redefined success, how you rebuilt your confidence, how you continue to reclaim your voice, all while continuing to write, lead, and thrive. So we really appreciate hearing about your journey today.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks everyone.
Thank
See you
you.
guys next time.
Bye.
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 Bye.